All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about a city you probably think you know, San Bernardino. But here's the thing. Its story is anything but straightforward. It's this wild tale of being built up, totally abandoned, and then completely reinvented. Not once, but over and over again.
So let me ask you this. What could a holy war, a devastating earthquake, and a prophet's command possibly have in common? I mean, it sounds like the setup for a wild movie, right? But the answer, well, it's pretty surprising. It turns out they all hammered out the identity of one single California city, San Bernardino. Every one of those crazy events left its mark, creating these layers of history that, if you know where to look, you can literally still see today. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Act 1. And our story really does begin on shaky ground. I mean that both literally and figuratively. We're heading back to the early 1800s, when the Spanish mission system was expanding and they started eyeing this really promising inland valley.
So, in 1810, this priest, Father Dumetz, shows up. He builds a small chapel, a capilla, and names the whole area San Bernardino. But wow, this first try did not last long. I'm talking just 2 years later, a monster earthquake rips through the region. This is the very same quake that famously destroyed the big stone church down at San Juan Capistrano. It took them till 1819 to even come back, and this time they just set up a cattle rancho. But really, the whole mission era was already on its way out. By 1834, the Mexican government steps in, secularizes the missions, and the land ends up in the hands of a private family, the Lugos.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. For the local Native American tribes, this earthquake was not just some random act of nature. Oh no. Their medicine men saw it as a powerful sign, a message. They believed their gods were finally getting revenge on the Spanish invaders. And you can see why, right? The quake completely destroys the missionaries' chapel, and, get this, it opens up these new dark water hot springs. For them, this was proof positive that the land itself was on their side, fighting back.
All right, Act 2. The mission era is over, the land is basically a huge private ranch, and the stage is now set for a totally different kind of settler. And we're not just talking about your average pioneers looking for a plot of land. No, these were colonists who believed they had a divine mission to build a literal utopia in the middle of the California desert.
$77,500. Now, that might not sound like a lot today, but back in 1851, that was an absolute fortune. And that's exactly what a group of about 500 Latter-day Saints paid the Lugo family for a massive chunk of land, 35,000 acres of the San Bernardino Rancho. They were all in, ready to build their new Zion.
And man, they did not mess around. They immediately got to work laying out this perfect city grid modeled on Salt Lake City, with those famously wide streets big enough for a whole wagon team to do a U-turn. Then they pulled off this incredible feat of engineering, building a 12-mile-long logging road straight up into the mountains just to get timber. Their sawmills were so productive, lumber basically became their currency. People called it Mormon banknotes. It was a super strict town for sure. No drinking, no gambling. But it was also, and this is pretty amazing for the time, incredibly diverse. You see accounts talking about white, black, and red all living and working side by side.
And that spirit of cooperation, that was the engine driving everything. Marion Phillips Rich, she was the wife of one of the colony's leaders, and she put it perfectly. She said they worked almost as one family, they were so united. And for a few short, amazing years, that's exactly what they did. They built this incredible, thriving community completely from scratch.
Okay, Act 3. So this utopian experiment, it's a huge success. I mean, it's working better than anyone could have imagined. But here's the twist. Its very success created a massive problem. The whole thing was about to get blown apart. And not by an earthquake this time, or by outsiders, but by a command from the very center of their own faith. You see, this huge gap started to open up. You had two totally different points of view. From Salt Lake City, the church president, Brigham Young, is looking at the California colony and getting really nervous. He sees a group that's becoming too successful, too worldly, too independent. But from the perspective of the settlers in San Bernardino, they were thriving. They had built this place themselves, and for many of them, as one descendant later said, it was just way better than Utah. And this next quote, wow. It comes from a family story passed down for generations, and it shows you just how personal and painful this all was. One of the settlers apparently decided he wanted to stay, and Brigham Young himself told him he was influenced by the devil and an apostate. An apostate. Think about that. The choice they faced was just brutal. Give up everything you've built, this home, this life, or be branded a traitor to your faith and cast out completely. And then the order came down. It's 1857, there's a federal army marching towards Utah, and Brigham Young recalls every last colonist. It was like an exodus, but in reverse. And about two-thirds of them, we're talking around 2,000 people, they obeyed. They just left. They walked away from their farms, their homes, everything they had poured their lives into, selling it all for, in many cases, just pennies on the dollar. It's heartbreaking to imagine. All right, Act 4. So when 2,000 organized, industrious people suddenly vanish, it doesn't just leave a bunch of empty houses. It creates a huge power vacuum. And you know what they say about nature? A whole new type of person rushed in to fill that void. The entire character of the town just flipped, like a switch. One minute, it's this disciplined, orderly, religious community. The next, it's gone. In its place, you get prospectors, you get gamblers, you get all sorts of opportunists. And San Bernardino, which was once this pious, temperate town, almost instantly gets a reputation for being a rowdy, hard-drinking, tough town. And the economy? Totally remade. Two new forces took over. First, you've got the cry of gold echoing through the mountains, which brought in a flood of miners. But then something else happened. In the exact same year the Mormons left, 1857, this one settler, Anson Van Leuven, decides to plant a few orange trees he got from Los Angeles. And guess what? They absolutely flourished. That was the tiny spark that ignited the massive citrus boom that would basically define Southern California for the next 100 years. This new gold and oranges economy fueled what historians called the boom of the 80s, the 1880s, that is. The railroads finally arrived, which was a huge deal. New towns like Redlands and Rialto popped up all around San Bernardino. And a new wave of settlers started pouring in, this time from the Midwest and the East Coast. And, wouldn't you know it, this created a new kind of tension. You had the old, more relaxed, live-and-let-live California way of life clashing with these new, more restrictive residents. The whole boom was kind of crowned in 1911 when they held the very first National Orange Show, a huge festival celebrating the fruit that had totally remade their world. So, when you step back and look at all of this, I mean, from Mission to Rancho to Mormon Utopia to a wild frontier town, after all these complete reinventions, what's actually left? What's the legacy of each of these totally different eras? Well, what's so cool is that every single wave left its own visible mark. From that first Mission era, you've got the Spanish place names and that original irrigation ditch, the Zanja. From the Mormon colony, you have that unmistakable wide street grid and the legacy of all that lumber. And of course, from the boom era, you've got the whole citrus industry and the towns that grew up around it. It's like the city is a living museum of its own past. And that, in a nutshell, is the story of San Bernardino. It's not a city built on one single vision. It's built on many, often competing, dreams. It's forged in these distinct layers, and it's a powerful reminder that no place is ever just one thing. It's always a collection of all the stories and all the people that came before. And it kind of makes you wonder, what layer is being added to the city right now? Thanks for digging into this with us.